Food for Life is about understanding what's really behind the food we eat. Have you ever seen the words live, active cultures, or probiotic on foods in the grocery store? Typically you see it on yogurt, but now we're beginning to see it on everything from, well, sauerkraut to even salad dressings. Typically when the words are on the container, the price goes up significantly. Scott Grisbeck, with 10 years experience teaching about, producing, and studying probiotic foods, is going to help us to understand what value they really offer. Probiotic Foods Explained, today on David Allender's Food for Life. Scott is an expert on probiotic foods, and he's going to help us to understand what they're about. So let's start off with asking the question, what does probiotic mean?
Basically, the definition is for life, which is the opposite of antibiotic, which is against life. In what we're talking about, probiotics are bacteria that help your body be healthier. And these probiotics basically help your digestive system. They're the bacteria that your digestive system needs.
Okay, so probiotics are bacteria. They're live bacteria, is that correct?
Yes,
okay.
That's correct.
Okay, so anything that has the label probiotic or live on it is going to have live bacteria inside the food.
That is correct.
All right, well, I think a lot of people, when they think of bacteria, you know, there's germaphobes out there. They don't want bacteria in their food. So, well, what's the story there? You know, why doesn't it hurt us to have bacteria in the food?
Well, it all depends on which bacteria you're talking about. But probiotic bacteria have always been part of the human system. Your body needs them. And actually, a lot of the antibiotic tendencies of our culture have actually hurt the probiotics that we have in our digestive system.
Okay, so there's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria.
That's correct, and probiotics are the good ones.
Okay, so the other thing that you hear a lot about probiotics is that there are benefits to the nutritional value of the food. How do probiotic foods improve the nutritional value?
Okay, well, let me go real quick over what they do, what probiotics do. So, in a natural food such as like a raw sauerkraut, raw kimchi, or salsas and relishes and salad dressings, the bacteria are either added or naturally there, and they eat the starches and sugars that are naturally in the vegetables.
Okay.
In eating those, they replicate, and you ingest them, and they act as probiotics for you. But what they also do is they kind of pre-digest the foods, and they make the vitamins and the minerals that are in the vegetables naturally more easy for your body to absorb.
Okay.
And also, they actually create many vitamins and antioxidants that didn't exist before.
Well, they also preserve the foods too, don't they?
And they preserve the food. So all of these foods, as long as they're refrigerated, are good for, honestly, years.
So they're actually making nutrition that's already in the food available, and they're making more nutrients on top of it, is the belief with this process.
Yeah, it's kind of magical.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so we now know that that there's how it helps improve the nutritional value.
Right.
How does it help with health? Because you hear a lot about health benefits of probiotics. What are some of the health benefits of probiotic foods, and how do we as consumers get those benefits?
Gotcha. Well, the health benefits can really be boiled down kind of to one basic thing. These products make your digestive system healthier. And there's many different strains, and a lot of them have different claims, but it really boils down to that they make your digestive system a better place to be.
So there are, I've read in some of my studies that there are particular bacteria that are associated with particular health benefits. What's your take on that?
I think that you should eat as many of these naturally probiotic and fermented foods as you possibly can to get as many of these different strains as possible. And if you do that, you're going to get these benefits. But basically, these benefits all come by the healing of your digestive system.
Okay.
Once the digestive system is healed, your body can digest foods better. You're going to then start absorbing more of the vitamins and minerals and other nutrients that come into your food, so you will become healthier that way. But also, and this is really cool, your digestive system, and many people don't know this, but your digestive system is really the heart of your immune system. And one of the ways that this is done is that the probiotics actually train the T cells in your blood to see what is a friend and what is a foe. And without the probiotics, it doesn't really understand what is friendly and what's a foe. And that's a real problem when a pathogen gets into your system and your body does not know exactly what to do about it. It doesn't have the
It doesn't recognize it.
Doesn't recognize it, and therefore it doesn't have the correct reaction. It's also on the other side, it doesn't know what a friend is. And therefore many allergies will arise because your body sees a foreign substance coming in, a food or pollen,
Right.
and figures that this is a foe. It's a harmless substance, but all of a sudden an immune system reaction goes on, you become sick, and it decreases your health. Probiotics help regulate that entire system. Previous to the past 20, 25 years of really knowing what probiotics are all about, mankind had no idea, but mankind was eating probiotics all the time. Now, they didn't know that it was a specific lactobacillus strain,
Right.
but they were eating all these foods on a regular basis, and they think that mankind back a couple thousand years ago had 1 to 10 million times more probiotic bacteria in their digestive system than we did.
Okay.
And so by eating all of them, you're pretty much guaranteed that you're going to be getting the right probiotics. And there are many probiotic foods, and luckily the co-op has quite a few here.
Sure.
You've got the salsas and relishes and salad dressings. You've got raw kimchi. These are great probiotic foods. You've got traditionally made raw sauerkrauts, and you've also got miso. And in addition to that, yogurt, as long as it is a live yogurt that hasn't been pasteurized after it was made, is probiotic, as well as kefir.
Explain that. There are some products, there are yogurts and there are sauerkrauts. Not all yogurts and not all sauerkrauts are probiotic. Tell us about that, so we know that we're getting something that's really probiotic.
Oh, absolutely. Outside of these brands of sauerkraut that are right here and other similar brands that are throughout the country, a sauerkraut that you pick up generally on a shelf is not going to be probiotic. It's been pasteurized. It may not even have been truly fermented.
So the pasteurization kills the live bacteria.
Kills everything. Anything that's pasteurized, at least at the end of the process, is not going to be probiotic.
So if it's got pasteurization or preservatives, I've seen on sauerkraut BHT is a preservative.
Yeah.
That kills it.
Well, I don't know if that kills it, but I think it's a definite sign that the product was never fermented and was never...
To start with.
Right.
Okay. Now also, you see canned sauerkraut. Now that's not going to be probiotic.
Oh, absolutely not.
That's completely dead.
Completely
because
dead.
The canning process kills all that.
Absolutely.
So, and also you need to look for yogurts. There are certain yogurts that are pasteurized after fermentation.
Right, and I'm not exactly sure which brands are and which brands aren't.
But watch, you got to look for whether or not it says live active cultures on the label. Okay.
If it says live active cultures, there's going to be some probiotic benefit to it.
Okay. Scott, thank you so much for
David.
this interview. I really enjoyed all this information. You've clarified a lot of things for me, and I hope it's helped our viewers to understand the benefits of probiotic foods so they can consider it as a choice. Scott, we talked about the diversity in probiotic products that you see in the grocery store today. So we picked up a few different products here to actually take a look at. For instance, yogurt, I think, is what most people think of when they're looking at probiotic.
So these are also raw and probiotic salad dressing.
So this is a carrot ginger probiotic dressing.
Yep.
What is this?
Well,
Or these?
These two are both raw and probiotic beverages. So you don't have to necessarily eat something, you can also drink something. This one is kombucha.
Okay.
It's made from tea and sugar. It's fermented similar, not exactly the same, but similar to the other products.
Okay.
It's kind of like I'd say vinegary soda.
Okay.
It's not sweet, but a lot of people drink it for the health benefits.
Now it says here, there it is, naturally effervescent.
That's right. The fermentation process creates carbon dioxide.
So it has a little of the fizz, like
Oh,
sodas.
it's got quite
but
a
it's not
fizz.
sweet,
No.
and it's a little bit tart. So
It's
this is a
quite
different
tart, yes.
drink. Maybe not what people are used to, but it's a healthy, it has all the probiotic health benefits.
Yeah. Quite often when people have it for the first time, they're like, wow, people
What is
drink
this?
this?
Yeah.
But when they get used to it, it becomes
It's an acquired
very
taste.
pleasant flavor.
Well, we're about changing the way we eat.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot. As a manufacturing consultant, I always like to go to the factory as the best place to find out how things are really made and to understand why they can be expensive or why they cost as much as they do. So Scott has graciously invited us to come out to his factory and show us a little bit about and talk to us about how the expense and how the labor and all those things come in to create a valuable product, but also make it a little bit more expensive than non-fermented.
Well, sure, absolutely. And thank you for coming over, Dave.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. A big part of what we do is traditional foods, and part of traditional foods, as any fermenting company is that, yes, it's definitely much more labor intensive. We get local organic ingredients from around us, mostly like in Lancaster County and such.
Like corn,
Well,
right out the
we
back
don't
door.
ferment any corn, but if we were, this would
It's
be
right there,
very
sure.
easy. I don't know if the farmer would be very happy with us taking his stuff, but
But you buy local
but
foods.
we buy local, and so it comes in fresh from the farmers. That means that myself and my employees have to cut that into all the little pieces to go into our grinder and everything like that. That takes a lot of time.
So you're going to pay a little bit more for locally produced vegetables as your raw materials and organically produced vegetables.
The organic expense is greater than the local part, to be honest with you. The organic does definitely give it quite a bit of added expense to it. The other thing with any fermenter is that we can't just make our products today and sell them tomorrow. The fermentation process takes a certain amount of time, and every different product for whoever's selling fermented products takes minimum a week, quite often 6 weeks plus. Now, during that time, you've got to be incurring all the expenses of the ingredients and the labor and the bottles and all that, and that all is part of the overall expense of running a business, and therefore, from a pricing standpoint, we've got to make enough up to be able to, from a cash flow standpoint, be able to survive for any extended period of time. The other thing is and I get this quite often when people say, "Oh, wow, thank you for putting your products in glass." And we do, because I don't believe in packaging in plastic. But that is also an
added expense.
Very large expense, to be honest with you. And I would say that 95% of the fermented food producers all do the same thing.
Sure. So it's important to the quality of the product. So you've got a lot of people in there. How many employees do you have here?
Right now, working in the factory itself, we've got 6. So we're still...
That's enough, and they're all chopping and peeling and grinding and mixing and all this stuff by hand.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we've got a few parts that are a little bit automated, but for the most part, we run this not tremendously different than you would have 100 years ago.
So a big factory, they're going to have machines that are going to chop all this, wash all this, do it all for you very quickly in high volume. Here, Probiotic, custom low volume, high quality food producer, you're looking at handwork, you're looking at chopping, you're looking at cleaning, you're looking at grinding and all this processing by hand.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, a large producer is probably going to be bringing in already produced vegetables that were prepped by another large company. It comes in bags, comes in frozen.
Right.
That, to me, didn't speak to the traditional nature of what we do.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, thanks for having us out to the factory. It's a beautiful setting. It's very peaceful out here, and you know that the setting finds its way into your products in some way. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Dave. I appreciate it.
We're here in Janine Navratil's backyard. And Janine is an avid gardener. She's an avid gourmet cook, and she also is the one of the administrators for the Homewood Garden Association, Homewood Community Garden. And Janine has generously agreed to show us how to make sauerkraut on her own back porch, so we can do it at home on our back porch. So how do you get started? What do you do?
Well, basically, obviously, you need some cabbage. You need a non-metallic crock or a plastic bucket, something that the cabbage is going to ferment in. And you need some non-iodized salt. And this is basically canning and pickling salt, so this is perfect.
Well, now, why is non-iodized important? Is that so you really have to make sure it's non-iodized, right?
Well, I think it's important because what you're trying to do is encourage growth of lactobacillus, and I don't know what the iodine does in terms of growing those kind of bacteria. It could have sort of an inhibitory property to it, but it's also the taste too, and I just avoid iodized
So
salt
canning,
altogether.
this commonly found canning and pickling salt is acceptable.
Oh yeah.
Now, you also mentioned the ceramic crock. Where if you don't have one of these, where would you get a ceramic crock?
They sell these in antique stores if you want to spend a little bit of money. Some old-fashioned hardware stores sell actually crocks made for doing pickling and making sauerkraut in. They're bigger. They tend to be sort of broader than this one. This is actually an antique honey pot that came from Europe.
It works.
But it works.
Yeah.
Basically, what you don't want to use is something that's metal. You don't want any kind of reaction with the salt that would happen with a metal container.
So maybe a plastic food bucket?
A plastic bucket would be perfect. You want to make sure it's food grade. You don't want to leach any nasty chemicals out of the plastic into your sauerkraut.
So how do we start?
Okay, well, what you want to do is have your cabbage clean, and we are going to shred it, and it's pretty much what you like best. If you like chunkier sauerkraut, you can cut it chunkier, but I'm just taking off these outer leaves just because you want to make sure that there's no blemishes or anything. You want to start. And then I'm going to cut out this core.
It even sounds fresh as you're cutting it. It's got a little squeak to it.
Yeah, it's beautiful cabbage.
It's organic cabbage.
And cabbage is so inexpensive anyway that you can afford to pay a couple more cents and get the organic. Okay, so then you can do this with a knife, and like I said, I don't have the best knife skills in the world, so this is essentially how I do it.
It works well. It doesn't seem to take that long. Well, that looks good. You got nice, nice thin chunks.
And one thing that I forgot to do, but these cabbages are all pretty similar. What you want is a ratio of 3 tablespoons of salt for every 5 pounds of cabbage.
Oh.
And that's just a rough estimate.
So
I mean,
3 tablespoons of salt for every
5
pounds of
cabbage. So if we weigh one of these, we just want to get a rough idea.
They're all pretty much
isn't
the same.
Exact science. So our cabbage, this one weighs about a pound, a little over a pound, but I took some leaves off. So let's say each one of these is
a pound. So
about a pound.
So these average size cabbage, you're looking about a pound each. So we got 3 pounds.
Yeah,
here.
so we've got 3 pounds. So we could use a little bit under 3 tablespoons. Like I said, this isn't exact by any means, and we're going to add a little bit of brine too.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because sometimes these things come across as touchy or sensitive, and you could mess them up.
No.
No, I didn't. Have you ever had a batch go bad on you?
Not really go bad. The worst thing that happens is you let it go for too long, and then it's a little bit soft.
It's not as crispy as you would
Right.
like. So
Right.
this isn't, you don't have to be worried that you don't get the exact measurement of
No.
salt and so on. It'll still work.
This whole process is ancient. This was developed by our ancestors before they even dreamed up canning or refrigeration. This is a really old method for preserving vegetables. And the other upside of it is that you also get probiotic organisms like the lactobacillus that are really important for our digestion.
And
when you think about it, we've really evolved over thousands of years to eat this kind of food. The lactobacillus is actually on the vegetables to begin with,
Okay.
and the salt keeps bad bacteria from growing and allows the lactobacillus to grow.
So I was wondering about that. So the lactobacillus, this particular beneficial probiotic bacteria, exists in nature on the vegetables. It's there on the raw ones, so it's not something that has to be added or...
No,
Okay.
no, not at all.
So we've got our cabbage cut. What is the next step?
Okay, so the next step is you're just going to put this in your crock. And what I've done with this, you want to have everything clean. Obviously, you don't need to be sterile. I'm not wearing surgical gloves or anything. We're doing this outside. But I did soak this with about a 10% bleach solution. So that's 1 part Clorox to 9 parts of water. And you want to just let that soak, sit in there for about half an hour or so, and then rinse it really, really well. So this is
soak
really
it with
clean.
a little bleach and water, rinse
Yeah.
that out real good, make sure there's no more bleach in, and
Right.
you know you've got a good clean container. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Sounds
So
good.
then I'm just going to use my washed hands and layer this cabbage in here. And what you want to do is make sure that it's really tightly packed. Okay, so I've got a layer of cabbage, and basically I'm just sort of using my fist to crunch it down a little bit. And then I'm going to put in some salt. And then more cabbage.
So you're doing this in layers. We're putting a layer of, you know, and you put what, about a tablespoon in?
Yeah, that was about a tablespoon.
Okay.
I'm
And
gonna
you're
try
packing. I
not-
noticed you
yeah.
were pushing, just with your hands, packing in the bowl. What's the purpose for that?
The lactobacillus grows in what's called an anaerobic environment. That means no air in there. So you want to make sure that you've got no air pockets in. I mean, you don't have to be perfect with this, and that's the other reason why eventually we're going to add a brine solution to this, which will
Okay.
fill up any pockets. And we're just tucking in these little bits of the core. Now, you don't have to do that, but
That's your extra treat.
that's my extra treat.
That's good. Now, how about brine? So we've got this packed in. We've got our layers
got
of
that
salt.
packed in, and
Oh, you're going to put another layer of
I'm
salt
going
on
to put
it?
another little bit of salt on top just to make sure.
Okay.
Okay. And you don't have to do this. The cabbage should eventually make its own brine. What happens is the salt leaches out the liquid in the cabbage, and it'll wind up being in liquid. But I find that you get a much more consistent result if you use a brine solution too. So this is just 6 teaspoons of salt for every quart of water. So.
Okay, so again, not an exact science. Basically, it's a salt water that you're adding to it. Okay. So you just pour that in?
Yeah, you just pour that in, and you want it to be up to the top of where your cabbage is.
Okay.
Okay? We're going to put this in here.
So again, you're packing it down a little bit with the bag.
Yeah, I'm packing it down. But basically, what you're going to do is fill this up with water, and the water's going to do all of that for you.
So this is creating weight and a seal.
Right.
Something, but not a perfect airtight seal. It's just keeping, because you said the bacteria prefers an semi or reasonably
Right.
anaerobic environment.
Right.
So this is giving you a seal on top of it.
Yeah, so, and you might want to pour in a little bit more water, but for our
Give it a little
purposes-
bit more weight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually when I make sauerkraut, I'll pack this about half full of cabbage, and then the rest I just use the bag and fill it up with
Fill it
water.
up with water and it gives the pressure.
Yeah. And you can, I don't have a twist tie here, but you can,
So you recommend tying it or twisting, you know,
yeah.
because it'll keep the water from evaporating. Which brings us to the next question. So how long does it take?
Well, it depends on where you put this and the temperature. If you've got a cool basement, say that's 50, 60 degrees, it'll probably take a couple of weeks. In my basement, I like to check it after about a week.
2 weeks have passed and the sauerkraut is finished. So we're back here with Janine, and
Yep.
she's going to show us how to get it out of the pot, how to serve it, and we get a chance to taste it and see how it compares to sauerkraut that we've had in the past.
Yeah. Well, basically all you have to do is dump the water out so you can get the bag out. So
Okay.
hopefully we can do this with the wind.
A little bit awkward, but
A little bit.
there it is.
There it is.
I don't know if you can see that. So the sauerkraut looks good. So let's see how it tastes.
Yeah, and it does look pretty much the same as when we put it in here.
It looks very fresh.
Yeah. So
And that's different from sauerkraut that comes out of a can. The canned stuff is much more translucent.
well, there's probably a couple reasons for that. The canned stuff is canned. It's basically cooked unless you buy sauerkraut that has the live cultures that hasn't been pasteurized, and there are some out there.
Well, it looks good. I'm anxious to try it. All right, let's give this a try. Oh, here's your fork.
There's my fork.
All right. It definitely looks fresher and more crispy.
Yeah. A little bit salty.
Can you hear the crunching? This is really crunchy sauerkraut. It
It is
tastes
very
very
crunchy.
fresh. You know, the saltiness doesn't bother me. I don't see it as really that much different. It has a very nice nutty flavor to it. I think it's delicious. I think we did a fantastic job.
And it was
One more.
very easy.
Very good. Janine, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to share this with all of us so that we can try this and bring some live, healthy, living foods into our diet. We went over a lot of information today about probiotic foods, so I know you want to know if you learned something. So there is a test. Don't worry, everyone passes. It's going to be okay. Go to foodforlife.tv, click on Contact, place your answers to the Probiotic Food Show questions in the contact field and click Send. I will reply with a PDF with the recipes for sauerkraut and some additional resources on probiotic foods. Thanks for spending your time with me today. I'm David Allender, and this is David Allender's Food for Life.